Buzzlet on the beat.
Hey guys, welcome to Mark Holowitz, the vlog. Thanks for joining in again today. Hey, what do we have here? The Jag F-Type. We're going to go for a ride right away and I'll explain a little bit more about today's story. And right here we have the Lamborghini Gallardo. I'm going to do a quick walk down through the Lambo and then we'll get into talking about how I even ever got into supercars and why did I ever decide to buy one of these in the first place. But let's take a quick look and maybe some of this will answer some of the questions for you. I mean, you look at exotics like this, they're super low and wide, very attractive. Lamborghini, can never go wrong with that. That's great. How about aggressive style and rake? Front windshields that are very, very steep and aggressive. Gotta like the looks of that. Lamborghini, you gotta love that. But let's open the door here and take a quick peek and maybe it becomes a little more evident. So anyway, just looking quickly here, one of the reasons I really got attracted to supercars was just the overall fit and finish. It's not just about the looks, even though looks are spectacular. You get in and once you experience the whole essence of a supercar, that's really how I got convinced that I wanted one of these cars. Anyway, looking around here, you'll notice you've got nice touches. You've got pedals that are metal, aluminum. People often upgrade to stuff like that. Well, these come like that. How about a flat bottom steering wheel? How about leather wrapped seats? How about Alcantara roof liner? How about steep rake windshields and gauges that read up to 40 kilometers an hour? Absolutely beautiful. You've got leather from top to bottom. You've got leather all the way around, leather seats, power heated right up the yin yang. That's how you get to loving these cars, is experience them firsthand, not just from a distance, because some people say don't meet your heroes. And often that's fairly right. I mean, I've seen Lamborghini Countaches and I thought that was my dream car ever since being a little kid. I always wanted a Countach and I got an experience in one and I loved it. It was everything, kind of everything I thought it would be, but they weren't as fast as I expected them to be. And of course you get a little bit of that smell of gasoline. They were rougher than I wanted, they were hot, and quite frankly, they weren't quite as luxurious as I expected them to be. But anyhow, let's reach through here, pull that lever, give it a good yank, and there we have it. Close the door. Lift that up, and what do you have here? That is the essence of a Lamborghini. Right there, Lamborghini. Yes, gotta love that. Every piece of that V10 engine making 500 plus horsepower really is what it's all about. It's the sound, the fury, the speed, everything. That car, even just the urgency at which you punch the throttle, it's just so immediate. The ride is aggressive and harsh. And the car is not about luxury. The car is not about taking grandma to the store. The car is just about insanity. That's all these cars are about. They're for the most intense driving experience for that half an hour that you want to drive it, or that hour. Let's close that up. Okay, so enough about the Lamborghini now. Let's just go for a ride in the Jag. But before we do, let's take a look around. So if you want to know why I started becoming attracted to these cars, was I think most people can appreciate a great looking car. It doesn't matter what brand it is. If it's sharp, sporty looking, maybe exotic, I think most people can appreciate what a great looking car looks like. And I was no different. So starting out in the world, I started driving cars. My favorite car, my first car was a Fiat X19, and then I graduated into a Mazda RX-7. But then I got to looking at other cars as well, and we'll explain that in a moment. But basically, cars that have really aggressive features. You know, you talk about cars that have flares on the back, that always really caught my eye. You talk about cars with tall tires. This is 20-inch rims. How about with width like that? How about really cool accent pieces? Like, look at those taillights. Dual, actually, how about quad exhaust? Because you've got exhaust on both ends. Jaguar, you gotta like that. But ultimately, that's how I got to these cars today, is my development over the years and how I got here. And let's talk a little bit more on my history and how I got to driving these cars and why did I start driving these. But let's go for a ride and I'll explain the whole story. All right. Okay, we're here. Now let's fire this beast up and we'll go for a ride and I'll explain kind of how I got to even buying these cars and really enjoying the supercar experience. Favorites. Car's warm. I actually had it out not too recently. I just got back from a nice drive. So looks like this is one of the things that you get used to is low fuel. Looks like I got to hit the gas station and get some gas, because driving around in a supercharged 5-liter V8 engine does have its negatives, and some of that is excessive fuel consumption. Not bad when you're just cruising along, but not great when you're really on the throttle. Now, it's actually kind of funny. If you remember back to the Lamborghini, that's a 2005. We're in a 2018 Jaguar F-Type R. And if you look around, you remember the Lamborghini, how the dashboard was all wrapped in leather? Well, so is the Jag. We've got leather interior. We've got leather here. We've got leather down on the door handles. We've got actually leather in a lot of places. And actually the console is not too unlike the Lamborghini. I mean, the control switchgear equipment's a little bit different, no doubt. It didn't have this handle in the Lamborghini, but often a lot of these parts are still very much the same as you find in the Lambo. Now, gauge-wise, the Lambo has a set of analog gauges like you see here, with a small little digital piece in the middle that tells you some of the general health factors of the car. So the only thing this car doesn't have is the flat bottom. Now, you can get it for these F-Types, but my car, in fact, does not have the flat bottom wheel. We do, in fact, though, have the sunroof, the giant glass area above, which you don't have in the Lamborghini. And again, as I said before, the Lamborghini is really less compromise, more supercar. So what that means is it's all about, the number one priority is the performance, the sound, the handling. All of that's number one. Some of these little extras like sunroofs, a nice to have, not a need to have. The Jaguar is, of course, known more as a luxury brand. You're still going to include things like the glass window like that. You're going to give you some of the extra features, a lot of the electronic push buttons like you see here. You're going to have heated and cooled seats. A lot of those things may or may not exist in a Lamborghini. So again, as I say, this is a little bit of the compromise that you make when you buy a supercar. This is a Jag, which again, as I say, is more luxury. So there's a bit more of a blend here. You get pretty hardcore driving experience, but there's still a hint of civility in this car. Uh-oh, what is that? That's a Nissan. Okay, so we're about to hit the freeway on-ramp here, and that's what these cars are all about. So that's what I'm talking about. So as I mentioned before, I started driving, one of my favorite sports cars in the beginning was the Mazda RX-7. So I've had a lot of experience with all kinds of cars. But then a friend of mine bought a 911, and we went for a drive in that 911. It was a late 70s standard non-turbo. It was an S, 911S. So certainly not necessarily the best example of a 911. But we went out for a drive and we went ripping it out that night. We did a lot of racing and came across some cars. We beat the crap out of a Mustang GT, and we raced a muscle car. We even raced a Harley and beat the crap out of that. So we did a lot of racing that night, and honestly, it was just a lot of fun. That car was fast, it was quick, and then we did a traffic circle. Here in Alberta, we have a lot of traffic circles, and we ended up taking that thing hard through the corners, and I couldn't believe how much faster that thing could take the corners than my Mazda RX-7. So from that day on, I knew right away that there was more to it than just the name. I mean, after a lot of people thought, you're driving a Porsche, it's just for the name. But in reality, not at all. Actually, I really saw the light that day. So then my hunt was on. I went and bought an early 911, an S. It was kind of a bastardized job. It looked like a bit of a wide body. They had made some changes to it. I owned that for a very short period of time, sold it. Then I bought an SC. So that was a 79 Targa. Targa, again, not really the enthusiast favorite, but I bought it because I wanted to get into a 911. It was a fun car. I really enjoyed it, had it for about 5 years, and I loved everything about it. I really learned what Porsches and nice cars like that were about. Then I bought a turbo, and I love that even more so. And then, of course, the time went on, and I became exposed to more exotics, thanks to my buddy Ed. He's a mechanic. He works on a lot of these cars. And once I got a taste of some of these other cars, he often had Lamborghinis in his shop. He'd have Ferraris. So I see Gallardos there. I see Murcielagos. He had Diablos. Sometimes I'd see a Ferrari, a 360. He had the odd 430 kicking around. And he had just about everything come through his shop. And so once I saw what the exotic car was all about in closer detail, got to go for some rides, then I was really sold. And once you get hooked, there's no going back. So after getting lots of exposure to all these supercars, the Italian cars and turbo Porsches, and I couldn't get enough. Then I started driving Vipers and GTRs, and then I got a chance to drive McLarens, and I really got a taste of what real depth of performance feels like. And honestly, I couldn't go back. As a matter of fact, it got so silly that people started calling me Turbo Boy. Turbo Boy was actually my nickname in our circles, so within my small group of friends, people called me Turbo Boy just because, well, first of all, I had a 911 Turbo, but I also liked cars that just went like stink. So I just somehow got the name Turbo Boy, and it stuck. But then I didn't look back from there. I've just been moving forward, driving better and faster, more intensive cars every single year upon year. And now here we are today. I'm driving the F-Type R, and this car does a great job satisfying the performance aspects and blending it with a little bit of drivability. Because that, in fact, the Lamborghini Gallardo, as I showed earlier, doesn't have a good blend of daily drivability. Now, there's people that are going to say, oh, sure, Huracan you can drive every day, and a Gallardo you can drive every day. You can. Like, daily driving these exotics can be somewhat prohibitive, and I realize that when I start hearing about some of the costs, like $15,000 US for an F1 pump for the hydraulic system for an early Ferrari, the F1 system. How about a set of carbon ceramic brakes on a Ferrari 458 that cost about $40,000 Canadian? How about a clutch job on a Gallardo, which is one of the simplest of exotic cars, that still costs you $10,000 to $12,000? So whichever way you look, these exotics have pricey repair bills. So you have to decide for yourself, do you have the money to drive it every day? And if so, that's great. And if not, well, then maybe it's a Sunday driver. For me, I'm sort of evolving into that. I want to be driving my supercars every single day. Now, the Gallardo is knowingly not necessarily the best daily driver. The clutch and the e-gear system aren't very good for engagement, disengagement, and honestly, even though with all-wheel drive, the car's not great for daily driving. That's why I stepped into the F-Type. The F-Type is truly a supercar. Now, it's not an exotic in the sense of the word exotic. It's not 400 grand for a car like an F-Type, but in essence, it's Jag's supercar, modern supercar, and it's all-wheel drive. And quite frankly, it seems like the best blend of daily drivability and performance. So that's why we're in the F-Type. Honestly, here we go again. These accelerations just never get old in these cars. It doesn't take long and you're catching up to traffic in front of you. So, I mean, that's what it's like when you drive these supercars. Not only that, the only downside I see with these cars is they don't do well with wear and tear, as far as, you know, you've got really gummy tires. Those gummy tires throw a lot of rocks on the side of the car, up the rockers and in the panels. So you got to protect the car. You need Expel or 3M or what have you. With some of the cars, depending, the Jag's not so bad. When you're driving the Lamborghini, often what happens is lots of people want to stop and talk. And honestly, I do enjoy that for the most part. So that's how I came about enjoying the supercar lifestyle, guys. It came on gradually over time, and I had certain experiences and exposures to cars that just made my day. And I've never shaken that bug yet. These cars are just too darn exciting to drive. And I just can't imagine my life not having some form of an exciting car in my life. I really do believe that these cars do make me who I am. That's a big part of my imprint, and that's just the way it is. And until I get to the point where I can't physically drive anymore, I will continue driving these cars because they are amazing. So if you guys are feeling it, be sure to subscribe, guys. Love for you guys to follow the channel. We're gonna really get into a lot of great supercar content coming up. Hope to catch you guys on the next one. See you then. Bye-bye.